Welcome to the deep dive. So, you've probably seen the headlines, right? Skim some articles. The World, early May 2025. It feels, well, complicated.
Definitely. Like a constantly shifting picture.
And this issue of The Economist from May 3rd,
Yeah.
it really lays that complexity out. Economies doing different things, global relations feeling tense.
Tech sprinting ahead, society trying to keep up.
Yeah. So our mission today, we want to cut through some of that noise. We've dug into these sources, this issue, to pull out the key insights.
The surprising bits, maybe, those aha moments.
Exactly, connecting the dots for you without you needing, hours to wade through it all.
Think of it as your curated briefing. We're hitting the big economic shifts, the geopolitical dances, the tech disruptions.
And the social currents underneath it all.
Right. We want to synthesize it, find the main threads, and give you a clearer picture of, well, what it all might mean, where things could be heading.
Okay, let's dive in. The global economy, it's painting a really interesting picture of divergence. So the U.S. economy, first quarter, growth was what, 0.3% annualized? That feels like a real slowdown.
It is a noticeable deceleration, yeah. And it seems tied to a couple of key things.
Okay.
Well, businesses built up quite a bit of inventory, meaning they have more stuff on hand.
Right. Unsold goods, maybe?
Could be. And at the same time, we saw a dip in how much they're investing in their businesses, plant, equipment, that sort of thing.
So maybe a sign of caution, softening demand?
That's likely the interpretation, yes, a more cautious outlook. And that 0.3% figure, just to be clear, that's annualized. So if it kept that pace all year, that's the total growth.
Got it. So the U.S. is kind of tapping the brakes.
Yeah.
But then you look across the Atlantic, the euro area,
Yeah.
1.4% GDP growth in the same quarter.
Yeah, quite a different story there. A significant split, really.
And while they're seeing that growth, the European Central Bank has hiked interest rates again.
They have, up to 2.5%, which really highlights this balancing act, doesn't it?
Trying to manage growth, but still wrestling with that persistent inflation.
Exactly. And you wonder, will these different approaches lead to very different outcomes down the road? It's a key question.
That inflation issue, it definitely feels like it's hanging over everything. Even with central banks acting, the worry about sticky prices and maybe an economic downturn seems very real.
Oh, absolutely. And the global economy is so linked, ongoing supply chain snags, shipping costs fluctuating,
Right.
disruptions anywhere can just ripple outwards and keep that pressure on prices. It's a good reminder that these national economies aren't islands.
And we also get some clues from specific companies, right? Which can sometimes tell a bigger story. Like Microsoft's cloud business is still growing strong.
Which suggests that digital transformation is still a huge trend.
Yeah, but their overall outlook seemed a bit cautious, tempered.
Reflecting that broader uncertainty we were just talking about, perhaps.
Makes sense. And then you've got Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, making this massive push into AI, pouring money into it.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back to AI, but that underscores the sheer scale of investment and competition happening there. It's seen as potentially game-changing.
Okay, one more economic point before we move on. This deep-sea mining debate. It sounds like potentially a huge source of resources.
Valuable minerals, yeah. Things needed for batteries, electronics.
But with some serious environmental question marks hanging over it.
Exactly. It's that classic tension, isn't it? Potential economic windfall versus protecting largely unknown, potentially fragile deep-sea ecosystems.
So lots of debate about how to regulate it, or if it should even happen.
Very different viewpoints. A real balancing act between resource needs and, planetary health.
Okay, let's pivot. International relations. Always eventful. The situation around Taiwan seems like a major focus.
Definitely. China's increased military activity there. It certainly raises concerns.
And Taiwan is just so critical, isn't it? Why is it such a flashpoint?
Well, multiple layers. Geographically, it's in a really strategic spot, that first island chain. But maybe even more crucial now, semiconductors, especially the most advanced ones.
The cutting-edge chips that power everything.
Pretty much. Modern tech relies on them. And Taiwan's ability to make those top-tier chips, it's incredibly concentrated and hard for others to replicate quickly.
So any disruption there?
Would send huge shockwaves through global tech, global economy, massive implications.
And it seems like there are different ideas on how the U.S. and allies should handle this strategic ambiguities idea versus being more explicit about defending Taiwan.
Yeah, that's the debate. Strategic ambiguity, the traditional approach, is about keeping China guessing and maybe also keeping Taiwan from declaring independence unilaterally.
Right, deterring both sides in a way.
Kind of. The argument for being clearer, for making an explicit commitment, is that it might be a stronger deterrent to China, removes doubt.
But the risk.
It could be seen as more provocative by Beijing, could potentially escalate things. So it's a really difficult calculation.
Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine. The sense is it's settled into this grim war of attrition.
Sadly, yes. A protracted struggle. Immense costs, human and material, on both sides.
And the article suggests it's hard to see an easy way out.
It highlights the huge challenges for both sides in making significant gains, and the terrible impact on civilians continues. A clear path to resolution. It doesn't seem imminent, unfortunately. Resilience and sustained support seem key.
Okay. Turning south to South Asia. Kashmir. Still unstable, ongoing terrorism, complicating things between India and Pakistan.
Yeah, Kashmir's got such a long, tangled history. Territorial disputes, politics, religion, all intertwined.
And the article mentions continued cross-border terrorism.
Which just fuels the tensions and makes any kind of lasting peace incredibly difficult. Plus, you have two nuclear-armed neighbors involved. Adds a whole other layer of risk.
Sure. And the world has other hotspots too, right? Mentions of political instability in Sudan, various economic headwinds hitting different countries.
Yeah, it's important to remember, while some crises grab the headlines, there are many other significant challenges unfolding all over the globe, each with its own complexities.
Right. Okay, let's switch gears. Technology, AI, artificial intelligence. It's everywhere in this issue, it feels like.
Unsurprisingly, yeah.
Zuckerberg pushing Meta hard to compete with ChatGPT. It feels like the AI race is really heating up.
It really is. The pace of development is just incredible, and the potential impact across so many industries is huge.
We're talking about these advanced language models, right?
Yeah.
Generative AI, stuff that can create text content.
Exactly. Systems that understand and generate human-like communication. And the competition among the tech giants is just driving innovation incredibly fast.
And we're already seeing AI creep into everyday things like travel planning.
The article mentions using AI for personalized itineraries, which sounds great, right? Tailored recommendations.
So there's a catch.
Well, it flags the potential downsides too, like maybe inflated prices based on what the AI thinks you'll pay, or recommendations that aren't actually that reliable.
So powerful tool, but not perfect. You need to be a bit critical.
Definitely. The algorithms, the data they train on, they can have biases, lead to odd outcomes, price discrimination, maybe even spreading misinformation unintentionally. Healthy skepticism is probably wise.
Good point. And beyond AI, there's the usual mention of cyber attacks getting more sophisticated.
Always a factor. As we get more digital, we get more vulnerable. So cybersecurity remains this constant critical need. It's an ongoing battle.
Okay, let's look at some social issues now. The IRS in the U.S., the tax agency, facing challenges.
Yeah, the article highlights staffing shortages, outdated technology. Sound familiar for public services?
A little bit. Sounds like a recipe for frustration during tax season.
For taxpayers and staff, probably. But there are efforts underway to modernize tax collection.
About time, maybe.
Well, it's not just about efficiency. It's about fairness, making sure the system works, funding government services effectively. It's pretty fundamental.
There's also this debate mentioned around birthright citizenship in the U.S. Different takes on the 14th Amendment.
Right. That amendment, post-Civil War, has the citizenship clause. And the debate is basically about who automatically becomes a citizen just by being born on U.S. soil.
Feels like it touches on some really deep questions about identity and belonging.
It does. And different interpretations have big implications for immigration law for individuals born in the U.S. It's a complex constitutional issue with real-world consequences.
And closer to, the U.K., the issue of homelessness is mentioned. Local authorities trying different solutions.
Yeah, another tough social challenge facing many developed nations.
A reminder of the strain on public services.
Absolutely. Homelessness often involves a mix of things: housing costs, economic inequality, mental health support access. Tackling it usually needs more than just local efforts, often requires bigger systemic changes.
Now for something a bit unexpected, snooker.
Snooker.
Yeah. The article mentions it's getting really popular, especially in China. That kind of jumped out at me.
That is interesting. Any idea why?
Well, it hints maybe at the success of Chinese players internationally. National pride, inspiring interest back home.
Makes sense. Plus, maybe more media coverage, more leisure time and spending power.
Could be a mix. It's just a fun reminder that cultural trends can pop up in surprising ways.
True. On a more sobering note, though, the piece also touches on the challenges facing UN humanitarian efforts.
Right. The need for aid seems to be growing globally. More crises, more widespread impact.
It feels that way. The demands on these organizations are immense, whether it's conflict, natural disasters, economic hardship, and they often face funding gaps, access problems.
Highlights the need for more international support, really.
Urgently, yes.
And finally, a quick mention of efforts against illegal logging and deforestation.
Still a critical fight. It's about sustainable resource management.
Yeah, illegal logging has huge environmental knock-on effects, right?
Yeah.
Deforestation, biodiversity loss, climate change.
Absolutely. So combating it needs ongoing international cooperation, monitoring, promoting sustainable ways forward. It's a constant effort.
Okay, so pulling back, looking at everything we've touched on from this Economist issue, some big themes really stand out, don't they?
Definitely. You've got this uneven global economy, that persistent inflation worry.
Uh-huh. Then the geopolitical scene, very volatile, tensions, conflicts.
Right. And overlaying all that is the relentless pace of technology, especially AI, changing everything.
And society's grappling with all of it, policy debates, social needs, it's all interconnected.
Exactly. These aren't separate stories. They're all threads in the same complex global tapestry. Looking at them together gives you hopefully a richer understanding.
So for you listening, as you think about this web of trends we've just walked through, maybe consider this. What single area do you think might see the biggest change in the next year?
Good question. And what could be the unexpected ripple effects from that change?
Or maybe just practically, with so much information flying around, what strategies could you use? How can you filter and synthesize effectively to stay informed, but, not completely overwhelmed?
Yeah, how do you find the signal in the noise?
Lots to think about. Hopefully, this deep dive has given you a useful framework, a clearer lens on our very complex world.